Cool. All right. So I think we are live in the group here. So hello, everybody. To anyone who's watching live or checks this out later, we're doing something new today. I've got my friend Illy here. Illy, thank you for being here and thank you for being my guinea pig.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for the invitation.
This is something that I always wanted to do because I'm starting to get more people who are doing guest posts on my blog. And so I think what a great opportunity to just introduce that person even further in the Facebook group and just let people know what all these great people are doing to help therapists. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, it's my pleasure.
So let's jump right in. Let's just start with introduction. For those who don't know who you are, why don't you just take it away and let us know who you are, what you do.
Sure. Hey guys, I appreciate being here in the group live. I'm a member of the group, so you see me posting here and there. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist in Florida and Pennsylvania. I am an AMFT approved supervisor, so I'm giving you sort of like my background is all MFT related. And these days I am an intentional career coach and a wellness warrior for mental health professionals. And I do that by writing, so providing resources, and most of those are on familytherapybasics.com, and also by just really promoting the Refresh Life for therapists, and that mainly the home for my Refreshed coaching and membership is at refreshtherapistnetwork.com.
Now, as you're talking, I was starting to think about how did we first get introduced to each other? I think I saw you on Pinterest. You have a lot of great content on Pinterest. I think you're really rocking Pinterest for marketing. So if anyone's interested, check out Illy's page there for ideas. But was that how it was? And somehow we got introduced that way?
I'm not certain. I think we probably crossed each other's path like on both ends around the same time. I think I went to your website, and then I think I reached out really in the really early days of the Refresh Therapist Network to invite you to come chat as a guest expert.
Right.
But I can't remember if I stumbled upon your site or saw something you wrote in a group, but it's been a little while now.
Yeah. And now Illy and I are actually in a mastermind group together. So we've become friends over the last year or so. So it's been great watching you grow and just bouncing ideas off of each other.
Yeah, likewise.
Cool. Well, let's get into your guest post that you submitted or contributed this week on the Create My Therapist website blog. If anyone has not read it, I definitely recommend going over there and checking it out, but we're going to kind of dive in a little bit deeper here. And so the title is The Soul Story Method: How to Use Your Personal Brand to Connect with Potential Therapy Clients. I love this because it's much deeper into content and storytelling than what I typically go into on my blog, because I'm more of the technical design sort of geeky guy. So I love this topic. So let's just start at the beginning. What's a personal brand?
Sure. Well, I have, I guess, a little bit of an anecdote related to the title that would tell you a little bit about my personal brand. You know, the word soul really is a word that resonates with me. And I know that you probably hear it everywhere and overhear it. And so I use it selectively. But I went through a battle as to whether to use it in the title of this method or not, because I think it can be overused and people hear it and think, oh, blah, blah, blah. But it's the right word for my brand. And it's not just about story, because everything that I do is about creating your business, your career, your work based on your self-knowledge. And so those two things for me cannot be separated. So I put soul up there, and it's the right word. So the question was, what is soul of this method, or what is the method?
Well, you talked about building your personal brand. So
what's the personal brand?
What exactly is a personal brand, for someone who's looking to market their private practice?
Yeah, thanks for the reminder, Daniel. So,
good.
The way that I define it in the post is that a personal brand is who you are, translated into words, colors, and images that reflect who you serve and what you want.
That's good.
But the way that I guess I can break this down a little bit is it helps me to think about style. So a few years ago, I went through, and it's a secret board on my Pinterest, so you won't be able to see it, but it's like a process of developing a signature style. And I developed a work uniform, and that's like the way that I dress when I'm networking and out in the world for business. And I broke it down into like four main pieces. And so it took me a while. It took me about a year. So the personal brand idea, I think, can really be related to your personal style, whether you've intentionally crafted a personal style or you haven't. So do you show up in the world casually? Do you show up in the world? Are you sort of like are you a coffee shop person, or are you a mall person? Are you, are you a fast driver, or do you prefer to drive, or do you prefer to be in the passenger seat? Like, I think everything that you are and all of your preferences are your personal brand. But in terms of who you are translated into what you do and who you serve, I think it's about where your loves meet your work.
That's good. That's really good. That actually gives me a lot to think about of like how am I building like my own personal brand? Because I think you do this really well. Like, I followed you, like I said, on Pinterest and also on Instagram. And coming from like my marketing and design background, brand is really, for me, it's a lot about, the images, and it's that message that's going out into the world. But I think one thing that's really important is consistency. And I think that's something that you do really well, like your Instagram with the handwritten quotes and stuff like that. Like it all feels, I feel that Refresh Therapist Network vibe, it's always coming across. I feel like you do that really, really well.
Thanks, Daniel. And let me also say that it's trial and error. One of the reasons that it's easy, it is easy for me. I'm trying to think, should I say it's easy? But it is kind of easy for me because I have a particular aesthetic that I like that's based on who I am as a person. So it makes it much easier. That's why I want to put this message out into the world, because if you go through this process, everything is so much simpler.
Yeah, right, for sure. Yeah, and then as you create content, as you create marketing, everything kind of just it falls into that knowing who you are and knowing how you want your business to feel, how you want your private practice to feel, your business, all that stuff. And so you can just kind of adhere to that. So let's get into the first stage you talk about in telling your story and your personal brand is the reflection stage. So what does that mean, and how can people use that to market their private practice?
Sure. So the reflection stage is really a time where you're thinking through what does your life look like, and what brings you to life. So what awakens your soul, what enlivens you, what are you doing typically when you're super joyful or feeling relaxed? If it's people, then awesome, write those people down and then think about, why do I feel this way around this person? Like, what is it about them? Is it that we have values that resonate? Is it that they make me laugh? So then you value humor or lightness. Or then you can be more clear about what values you share and how it matters to you to be with people that are like-minded. So it's reflecting on that, on who you are and what brings you to life. So some of the questions that I placed in the blog, which you can check out, but I'll just say a couple of them. What nurtures you? How do you express your creativity? And there's a whole list of them on the blog. And then tying that to your work. So what have you observed from your work or the results of your work that inspires you? So for example, when have you had a session with a client where they expressed a ton of gratitude for the work that you've done for them? And How did you feel, and why does that matter, and why is that important to you? What kind of client were they? Were they your ideal client, or are they the type of person that you want to be working with all the time? What did you value in them? What was it about them that you think made them able to say that to you? What was it about how you showed up with them that's different from the way maybe you show up with a different type of client? So getting in touch again with who you are in your role as a therapist. So tying the personal to the therapist role, but all really being about that soul place. That's what that reflection stage is about, is finding the answers related to that.
Right. So the first question that comes to my mind about that is the practical side of doing that, because it seems like that takes a lot of self-awareness, and a lot of mindfulness about, how you're feeling after the work you've done with specific clients and that sort of thing. So practically speaking, like, how can people grow in this practice of collecting those the things that make them come alive?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it's sort of like a loop, because the more you try, the more you do it, the easier it becomes, and you can almost step out of yourself in the moment. I'm not suggesting that you not be present, but there's a part of you as a therapist, you're already keeping track of a million things at once while you're present, because that's part of our training. So you're able to sort of step back and say, hey, let me put a marker here for later. Like, this is important. Let me check back as a person later, not as a therapist right now, but later. So I think we get better at it with practice in the moment, but really this process can be, it's in retrospect. So I'm not saying you have to be aware in the moment. I'm saying go ask yourself these questions and related questions now about experiences that you have had in order to get in touch with these things.
Right. Yeah. And maybe it comes down to like just setting some time aside each week to kind of reflect back on the week and the clients you've had, and make sure if there's anything that stood out. I know one thing that I talk about a lot or teach on my blog is literally keeping a spreadsheet of, I call it like a copy bank. So things that your clients say that really resonate. Like if your ideal client says something a certain way, then keeping track of that so you can like reflect that back. So, I try to be organized, because if I'm not organized with spreadsheets and stuff, I just lose track of everything. So like, I'm kind of picturing like what I would do in that situation is like, I'd probably keep like some sort of geeky spreadsheet and like reflect back on the clients I had, just to make notes or whatever. Or maybe it's like, a journaling practice and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, in terms of marketing, that's a really great idea, to take sort of a marketing reflection time every week and think about, or at the end of each day, like what words were used today. But, this process really can be once and done. If you ask yourself these questions, then you have a sense of your brand for a little while, and then you do it again after you've been, trying this for a little while and see if anything has changed. I don't recommend like doing it and forgetting about your brand, because like you're saying, you have to kind of stay current.
Yeah.
But in a way, it is kind of a once and done.
Right. Yeah, I struggle with that often in my own business, where I'll do some of the bigger picture work, and then I'll get busy again. I need to constantly come back to the goals that I've set or the marketing or ideas that I've had.
So it is time. I think the strategy there is schedule it, put it in your calendar that you need reflection time.
Yeah. Right. So once you get these ideas down, you reflect on what makes you come alive, tied to your work and all that. What's the next step in using that for marketing and for telling your story?
Yeah. So the next step is the writing stage. So it's bringing together the answers, the words, everything that you came up with during the reflection stage, and writing out your story. So part of what the main questions that I shared in relation to what is your story were, what brought you to this point in your career and your business? What specific events led you here? Why do you serve the clients you serve? And what vision are you creating one session at a time? And the reason that I phrase the questions this way is that it sort of gives you an umbrella over your work that's about you. right? So it's not just, oh, I'm here because I went to, I got a master's degree in marriage and family therapy, and now I have to have a practice. No,
Right.
that's not actually true. You got a degree in marriage and family therapy for a reason. There's so many degrees that you could have gotten,
Right.
and then within that marriage and family therapy study, again, of course, MFT is just an example that I'm using, but within your study, there are specific parts of what you learned that resonated more than others. There are ways that you work. So being who you are is a process of elimination. And so the writing part is putting into words what you've chosen belongs to you.
Right. That's so good. That's so good because I look at so many, especially like about pages on websites, and a lot of them are, kind of like you said, it's just they focus more on the degree or, this is the training that I had and just kind of list it off, but there's no story to it. There's nothing that really pulls me into it. It's just like, okay, so why should I care, as the potential client, why should I care that you got that degree? Can you help me? Like
Right.
and that's what I think that people struggle a lot with that.
Yeah, I agree. And I think as therapists, and one of the things I share in the post is that, therapists ask me, well, where's the line? Like, can't I overshare on my website? And well, yeah, it's a
Yeah.
possibility, but that self-disclosure and oversharing is really different than speaking to your potential client like a human being. Like, hey, this is how I ended up here. This is why this matters to me. This is why I'm passionate about this topic, and this is the way that I like to work. If that all sounds great to you, like, let's chat. So that's the purpose of writing your story.
Yeah. And I think I saw you had a good Brene Brown quote in there. I just saw it. Where was it? I think
Did
it
I
was
quote very well? Oh, yeah.
yeah, share what's vulnerable, not what's intimate, I think is kind of the gist of it. And
Yeah.
I think that that's good. It's kind of in a way you want to kind of push yourself a little bit to share because it's really the emotion, especially when it comes to marketing,
Yeah.
it's emotion is what pulls people in. So being able to tell your story and share a little piece of you is going to resonate with people. And
Yeah. And I'm sorry, go ahead, Dan.
no, go ahead, you go.
And I recommend getting in touch with the I statements. I think we're like so good at this in teaching I statements, but a lot of therapists struggle using I statements in the therapy room. So like, oh, I'm thinking this. What do you guys think? Or I'm thinking this is where I'm going, but I'm remembering this. I do that in therapy because I think it's important to let clients know where you're headed and where you are. But that's not self-disclosure, right? You're just simply coming from a place of I. And so, but when it comes to, we get all jumbled up when we think promotion and marketing. And so I
Yeah.
think sometimes we forget how to speak from that place of I. And so I just really recommend getting back in touch with how do you do that in copy in your writing, show up just from you, like who you are.
Yeah, for sure. And I think too, it's definitely all this stuff is a process, and I'm so thankful that websites can be changed. So a lot of people that I speak to, they get really hung up on the writing part of the website copy and stuff, and for good reason. Like you definitely want to spend time and learn to tell your story. But it's going to change over time, and you can always come back and as you get better and as you grow in these practices of sharing your story, and you can update that and edit it.
And I appreciate that reminder because I think what kind of keeps us stuck too is feeling like, wow, once I put the brand out there, I can't change it, or people are going to think I'm a flake. Like if I'm like, no, this isn't the right thing, almost like you have to have all the answers or commit like for life if you're going to advertise something. But no, like you can choose what's right now and change it later. And typically that process, rather than appearing like you've shifted, it ends up being more of a narrowing.
Yeah.
So it doesn't look like, oh my gosh, now they were doing this and now they're doing something completely different. No, usually you've just focused it a little bit more.
Right. Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, I think that we've covered a lot here. So is there anything else that you want to just leave people with as far as crafting your story and your personal brand? Any other tips?
Um, I think that maybe I just want to end on that there's no pressure. That it does take time, and that I'm an introvert, and I talk about personality a little bit in the post, but I always start with learning. That's where I start. So I started learning about branding, not using that word, not in a way that said, oh, you're learning about branding, but it was about style. As I said, that's where it started for me. So however you find yourself being interested, like whether you're, an artist, or maybe your Pinterest boards are about food and they're like particular food pictures you like more than others, or particular blog looks that you like more than others. That all speaks to your personal brand. So it's really just about noticing what you're already doing.
Right. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for doing this. This is fun.
Thank you. I appreciate it and really enjoyed being your guinea pig.
We'll have to do this. We'll have to do this again in the future. Okay. Can you remind people again where they can find you?
Absolutely. So familytherapybasics.com and refreshtherapistnetwork.com. And you can reach me directly at illy@refreshtherapistnetwork.com.
Awesome. I'll make sure to post those in the comments of the video once it gets posted in the group.
Great. Thanks, Daniel.
All right. Thanks so much.